Can I welcome everyone to the meeting? My name is John McDonnell. I'm Labour MP for Hayes Harlington. Just to say that the meetings I've been doing with Paul, we've been doing meetings region by region and sector by sector, group by group in the union. I've been trying to participate in as many as possible. Sometimes opening them up, chairing them. And tonight I just want to open the meeting up and then invite Paul to speak, and then Dan will take over as chair because I've got another meeting to go to. Just to give you my take on all of this, the purpose of these meetings is for people to listen to Paul and his program for the union, the reforms he wants to introduce, and also the way he would behave and operate, and as the General Secretary if elected, and how he would be accountable, but also how the union would work, how we'd all be involved. My participation is just so people know, I used to be a NUP member years ago. I was a NUP shop steward, and then when NUP merged with COSI and Nalgo, obviously became a UNISON member. So I've been a UNISON member now, well, linked with NUP, God, I don't know, it must be over 45 years now. It's quite a while anyway. I'm part of the archaeology of the union. I suppose they'll dig me up in a couple of centuries' time, find a UNISON and UP badge on me. Anyway, that's my background. The reason I'm involved in this is because I just think this is possibly one of the most important elections in our union that we've had, because it will determine the future of our union, and it will determine the principles upon which our union will operate for the future. And also, to be frank, it will, for us as members, I'll be straight with you, I think it gives us the chance for us to take our union back again, back to make sure that we're a member-led union. I was always proud of NUP and then UNISON that we were a member-led union, a rank-and-file union, and rank-and-file members control the union, gave it political direction. And I think that's where we need to get back to. We need a program that Paul has been advocating, which is to give resources and power back to the branches and back to the members so that we can have a truly democratic union. And the reason I'm supporting Paul is because that's his program, but also I've known him over the years, and what I know about Paul is when he says something, he means it. And with him was what you see and what you get. So on his program, when he says, I'm going to do something, he will do it. And the whole purpose of, I suppose the whole purpose of his standing as General Secretary is not, you know, this is not a career path of Paul or anything that never has been. That's not what he's about. He's not a careerist. He's a rank and file member. And that's what I've been saying to people. He's the members candidate. He's not from HQ. He's not a bureaucrat. And I'm not disparaging anyone. I'm just saying that Paul is a rank and file member. He's a members candidate, and he's proven himself over the years. He's never let us down in any negotiations or any dispute or whatever. He's always been there. He's always supported the campaigns in the union, sometimes when it's not been popular. You know, sometimes you have to stand up and be counted, and that's what I've liked about him all the way through. And also, sometimes when you stand up like that, and you have to have a bit of courage and determination, things get thrown at you. But when the good thing about Paul Holmes, anytime he gets knocked down, he's straight back up again, full stop. So that's why I'm supporting him for the leadership of the union, for become General Secretary. But it is that principle upon which I firmly believe that when you're elected to position and you take effectively power, your job is to give that power away and give it back to the people who elected you and the people you're seeking to represent. Let me just say this as well. The reason I think this is important, I think this election more important than any we've seen recently, certainly, is the issues that our members now face. I'm fearful immediately of what's happening with regard to our members with regard to COVID. There's still a lack of protections out there, PPE. In my own constituency, the care home situation has been a nightmare, and the hospital, I'm afraid, but also the care homes in particular. I'm really worried about all those involved in social care. I'm worried about all those involved in public services generally. about the lack of protection that's been afforded to them. That's the first thing. I'm really worried about just the lack of support when people are going off sick, as a result of self-isolating or whatever, the lack of support that they've had in terms of sick pay, and others when they've lost their jobs, universal credit as well. And I'm just fearful at the moment about the risks our members are undertaking, are being put at risk by the current situation, by the government, and the lack of support, and also actually the lack of care. It's all well and good Tory MPs going out there and clapping for the NHS and for social care and all this, but they never followed up with the support they want. It's rank hypocrisy. And that's why I think we do need a strong voice standing up for our members, pointing out where they're not getting the support they can and pointing out what needs to be done. That's the first thing. The second thing, and I'll be brief, I'm worried about the next stage as well. We're going to see a budget in November, a spending review, possibly a 4-year, 5-year spending review. And I think the Tories will be tempted back down the road of austerity. And I also think they'll be tempted back down the road of part of that austerity of wage freezes and wage cuts. And they'll go as far as they can push if there's no resistance. And I think what we've got to do, we need a union now that's standing up and saying we're not taking it anymore. We've had 10 years of effectively wage freezes, wages still below the level before the banking crash, and we're not taking it on behalf of our members anymore. We'll stand up and we'll fight back. And we need a strong voice and a strong leadership to enable that to happen, who can bring people together, represent us, but empower us as well in those actions that we'll need to take to protect our members. So that's why I'm supporting Paul, and I hope people do as well. I think there's a responsibility on all our shoulders as members of Unison. We've got to explain to our members the sort of General Secretary that we want, the reforms we want in our union, and the way in which we'll bring about those reforms. And we've got to mobilise, my view is we've got to mobilise the vote for Paul so that we can get him as General Secretary, because if we don't, I think we'll be kicking ourselves in terms of what a wasted opportunity this was. This is about, as I said, someone who's got a track record you can trust. And as I keep saying, he's the members' candidate, someone who's a frontline, one of our shop stewards representatives, etc. So all his work as a convener over the years demonstrates just how effective he can be. And I think he's the person that we should swing behind. And I hope tonight you'll be able to hear Paul. There'll be a whole series of other speakers and you'll be able to question. And I think you'll be able to go away convinced that this is what needs to do. But I urge people, if you do listen, please support him. If you support Paul, we need people going out there making sure the vote comes out for him, because you know what happens, the media and all the rest of it. Getting the message out to our members is absolutely key, and the best way of doing that, word of mouth, explaining to people what we're about, what Paul's about, and what this union could look like in the future and how effective it could be. So that's why I'm here. Enjoy the meeting this evening. I've got to go off and talk on something else. But on every front at the moment, I think our union is in a real struggle, and we've got to be a fighting force once again. And I think that's what Paul can make us. Let me hand over to Dan now, and I'll let you get on with the meeting proper, Dan. Okay.
Thank you very much indeed, John. We really appreciate your time tonight. We also really appreciate not just what you're doing for Paul's campaign, which is tremendous, but what you do for our movement is just absolutely second to none. So thanks a million. So my name is Dan Sartin. I'm chairing this meeting now because John does have to go to another meeting. John will be chairing an amazing number of meetings for us over the course of this campaign. I think we've got at least another 9 or 10 planned, and you will get emails about those meetings because you've signed up to this one. And I hope you, as John said, will use word of mouth to pass this on and get people involved in the campaign. My name's Dan Sartin. This is a public meeting, so welcome to it. I'm the branch secretary at UNISON West Sussex, which is a big branch down on the south coast of England with 6,500 members. I'm also on the NEC with a southeast seat on the NEC, but obviously tonight anything I say will be done in a personal capacity, and the same for all of the UNISON speakers here tonight. So without much further ado, I do want to introduce our next speaker. That's Diana Leach. She's another NEC member, but she's in the local government, or one of the local government seats. But she's also an activist, as you'd expect, in her branch, which is Brighton and a Hove in the southeast area. So, Diana, would you like to take the floor?
Thank you, Dan. Can everybody hear me? Is that okay?
Yeah,
I'm not
loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction there, Dan, and it's great to see John McDonald again. As Dan said, my branch is Brighton and Hove branch. It's in the southeast region, and I'm supporting Paul Holmes. I've known Paul on the NEC for over 12 years, and in that time, I have found him to be extremely knowledgeable, supportive in all disputes. Paul has been a successful, well, he still is a successful branch secretary for 30 years, and he has a lot of support already for his radical proposals. What I would like to talk about now, tonight, is the situation in the southeast. For example, we have many small branches in the southeast, in fact, a total of 112, whereas I mean, that's quite a lot compared to some of the regions that have maybe less than 25. I mean, most of our councils are under Tory rule, and this places us in a pretty unique and at times difficult situation here in the southeast. Small branches, lay membership, and very little facilities time paid by the employer. So under the existing rules of branch finances, it is very difficult for small branches to survive without the goodwill from their branch officers. As a result of what the NEC kind of instructions have been recently, we can only award 10% of branch funding for the honorarium, which covers very little. Now, Paul supports 50% of members' subscriptions increase going to the branches, not the regions. Paul's proposal to fully fund a massive plan of action to improve collective bargaining rights in the community and private sector is an extremely important one, which will help branches deal with a huge increase in the number of employers that we have in the branches. And lastly, this idea of each branch fighting for their own job losses, local authority job losses, and against anti-austerity cuts. I mean, to use the well-worn slogan, which is still relevant today, and I'm always quoting it actually, but an injury to one is an injury to all. We need to put the whole weight of our union against any job losses and cuts to our members' terms and conditions and pay. Paul Holmes will do this. He's our very own could be our very own lay member General Secretary. Please read his nomination leaflet, Time for Real Change, which I'm sure you've probably all seen, but if you haven't, I would recommend that you kind of read that. And more importantly, vote for him. Thank you for listening this evening, and I wish everybody well. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana. That's lovely. You're absolutely right. That is a brilliant nomination letter, and I know it's gone down very well with branches. Absolutely fantastic. And thanks for also mentioning small branches. I know that's something Paul is going to be making a statement on very shortly for small branches. We'll be sending that out on social media tomorrow at the latest, I think, because it's really important that we don't overlook the needs of small branches in this election. So thanks a lot, Diana. Okay, our next speaker is Becky Brookman. She's the Southwest rep on the Local Government Service Group Executive. She's also the Southwest Regional Women's Coordinator. And I think I'm right in saying, Becky, you're from the Dorset branch, but if I'm wrong, I'm sure you'll correct me now. But, welcome from the Southwest. Would you like to take the floor?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. And yeah, you're right. I'm from the Dorset branch as well. I'm assistant branch secretary. So yeah, as Dan's just said, I'm the regional coordinator for the Women's Committee in the Southwest, and I also sit in the female seat for local government service group, where we proudly nominated Paul Holmes a couple of weeks ago, which was actually unprecedented. You know, we have never nominated a lay member before, so that really shows that there is a real need and a real sort of urgency to get the change that we need in this union. So just a bit of background about the Southwest. You know, most people know it as a holiday destination. You've probably seen it on the news quite recently with people flocking to Bournemouth and Durdle Door. But it's not just a holiday destination. You know, we have poverty wages here. We have unaffordable housing. A majority of people work in the public sector. I've been working in local government now for 15 years, and I've just seen local government being decimated over the past 10 years. It's just been shocking. There's been restructures after restructures, there's been redundancies, there's been outsourcing. My own branch has got 235 different employers. We've got a membership of 5,000. And pay in real terms is down by 20%. You know, and where has the fight been? You know, we've been waiting year on year. Come on, surely now we're going to be doing it. Surely now this is the time to fight back. I mean, you know, if all those, you know, the lack of the 20% reduction, the cuts, if that doesn't show you a failure in leadership, I have no idea what does. You know, I just think that this is the time for change. We've just had, well, we put in for a 10% claim for our pay for local government. We were offered 2.75. There was no huge campaign about why we deserve the 10%. We know we do. There's apathy with members because they think, well, we haven't fought for this before, so why, you know, what's going to change? They're also terrified for their jobs because of the continuous cuts. You know, and I believe that Paul really is, he is the leader for our union. You know, he's shown, he's got, you know, he's won case after case, he's won negotiations, he's there for the people. He's also taking a worker's wage. So I think that will really help with the apathy. You know, if people can relate to Paul, he's not a careerist. He's here because it's his passion, it's his duty. You know, so they can come around there and we've got the leadership and we can win these campaigns. And as John was saying, this is the most important time now for this General Secretary sort of election. We have no idea what's coming. You know, we thought austerity was bad. This is going to be so much worse. We need somebody that has the backs of our members, that can fight for us, that can lead us, that can, you know, win public campaigns and win the public across. You know, just for our, during COVID, you know, we've seen the spotlight's been shone on local government workers and public sector as a whole, and, you know, how we are the front line, how we are essential. And yet, you know, we're not getting the pay that we need. So I really think that Paul is the person to lead us in that direction. You know, there's been so many failures by this government during COVID pandemic. We've had care workers, as we were saying, that have had no PPE. We've had teaching assistants absolutely terrified to go back into work. In my branch, we had, during April to June, we had a 300% increase in contacts from members, absolutely terrified. You know, we do not have the resources there to provide that assistance. You know, we help as much as we can, but we need those resources. And Paul, as has been already said, Paul is going to put 50% of the membership subscriptions to branches so we can do that. I just think this is just a fantastic campaign. There's radical changes coming, but radical changes are needed. Paul is committed, as I said, to a worker's wage, to fully resourced branches. He's going to put democracy back into the union. It's going to be a lay member-led union, and that's what we need, and that's what we deserve. So that's why I'm voting for Paul. Thank you.
Wonderful, Becky. Very, very well said. Thanks so much. Very passionately put. It's exactly what we need, that kind of enthusiasm on this campaign. You're so right. The local government service group exec nomination, absolutely groundbreaking. Would have shaken this union and some of the people in this union. And we now have to build on that. We've been breaking other new ground as well. The very first nomination of a lay candidate from a Northern Ireland branch. There'll be more ground that we break in this campaign yet to come. We can win this. If you didn't already know, Paul is on the ballot paper already. So this can be won. And this is what we need to do, is maintain that momentum now. So thanks so much, Becky. Janet, I'm going to ask you to speak now. Janet Maiden is our next speaker. Janet's a nurse at UCH London. I think that stands for University College Hospital London, but again, if I'm wrong, I'm sure Janet will correct me. But Janet's also, as well as being a London branch activist, she is on the Health Service Group Executive. So would you like to take the floor, Janet? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for that introduction. I'm really proud to be speaking at this campaign meeting. It is incredibly exciting. And look, I want to start obviously with where we are, and none of us could have imagined the last 6 months, even if we tried, but the COVID pandemic has massively shone a light on the vast inequalities in our society, but also the fantastic teams of staff who work in our public services and the NHS. You know, nobody needs a medal for recognising who it is who really keeps our country going. And I can feel sorry for myself as I'm about to start my day to go on to a 12-hour shift. But, you know, I have to realise from the minute I walk outside my front door, literally bump into the street cleaner who's my friend, and we wave at each other, and then get onto the London buses and the tubes, I've come across those vital public service workers who are the people who saw us through the pandemic, but also tragically, as we know, paid with their lives. And people have quite rightly alluded to the fact that we have no idea really of the severity of the economic crisis that's going to hit us, you know, really badly, and it'll make austerity look like nothing. But I think we're going to need to have a union that is fit to fight for our future and ensure that actually it's not us who will have to pay for the economic crisis. And I think in UNISON we really do have to ask the question, is our union currently fit for that purpose? Are we happy with the way the union is running, or do we need a change, in fact? And of course that's what this meeting's about. And you know, the 21st of July, Rishi Sunak made an announcement that he wanted to give an above inflation pay award, just over 3%, to over 900,000 public sector workers, who he said they'd really for what they'd done through COVID. And these workers were teachers, armed forces, people who work in the courts, and NHS consultants. And obviously NHS workers were absolutely gobsmacked, not people, you know, that we were not included in that. Not one porter, not one cleaner, not one nurse, not anybody included in being talked about having a reward. Their reason for not rewarding the health workers, they say, is that we had a 12.5% pay rise. This is a complete lie. It wasn't as good as they say. And in fact, this year, the third year of our pay in the NHS, we've had about 1.65%. You know, there was a massive explosion of anger from NHS staff. You know, we know that we have lost over 547 staff in the pandemic. And within a week, there was the organisation that Health Workers Say No to Pay Inequality sprung up. It currently has, it was sort of organised via Facebook, over 80,000 people. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. At the same time, I was attending a service group meeting, and we, in 2 days before the demonstration in London midweek, which was the 29th of July, a few of us argued strongly that UNISON has to be seen to be backing this, if not, you know, getting on board and involved. But they didn't, you know, and it was awful to see a letter go out telling us what we couldn't do. On the 8th of August, following that, there were over 40 protests up and down the country. The only person that I'm aware of who spoke at any of those rallies was Paul. He spoke in Leeds to the rally of the health workers. And, you know, we need to see that over and over again. The leadership currently is so remote that they're quite literally all working from home and terrified of anyone doing anything. And we have had protest after protest in London. I'm really delighted to say now that UNISON has announced 2 days of action, and I think it's because really of what we've done. We forced them into announcing that action, that they want 2 days of action on 16th to the 18th of September, and I really would urge members to get on board with that, whether it's holding a poster, taking selfies, having a social gathering of whatever's legal at the time. Because the horror of the deaths over COVID have really, really been affecting our branch. We also, in the last 6 months, have seen the rise of the Black Lives Matter following the awful death of George Floyd. And people in my branch, many Black and ethnic minority workers, are aware that the lid of anger has been taken off over racism. People are so aggrieved. We had one of our most political branch meetings 2 months ago. And again, we want to see UNISON taking the lead. In their magazine, they have pictures of the Black Lives Matter demonstration and our health demonstration, whilst telling us not to go on it. That can't be the way that we run our union. I know that the anger is out there. I'm winding up now, Dan, but that the anger is out there, that people have protested. We've got Extinction Rebellion happening up and down the country, for 10 days currently as we're in this meeting. And the reason I want to see Paul as a General Secretary, I think, he's shown he's got experience. He's got massive union density in his branch. He's led campaign after campaign. I know he can speak for himself. And some people have asked, whether we need a woman leader or a Black leader. Well, actually, I don't think that a woman who does nothing for women's rights is the person we need. I don't think that just somebody who's Black but has not taken the lead in fighting over racism is who we need. I want a leader who's committed to having a team who will go out and energise members to fight. Look, we're an incredibly old union. I know those people on the streets that I've seen on the Black Lives Matter protests, the nurses and other health workers are really, really young. They have got to be the future. Paul inspired me when I first heard him in the early 90s, when as a newbie nurse, I became part of UNISON and met and heard him for the first time speak at conference. That's the sort of leader we want, and I'm going to do all I can to campaign and make sure he gets elected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet. Well said. Absolutely brilliant. I think you're right with a next wave of COVID probably on the way, with the austerity that's going to come with this. Our union needs strong leadership now. It needs that more than ever. It needs that leadership to be inclusive. That's really what we've been missing, and I think that's what Paul Holmes is offering. He'll enable the members. He'll enable us, the activists. I know we have got a question on health coming up, Janet, so I hope you'll stick around for that, because people have been sending in their questions prior to the meeting, and I know health is a very big concern for a lot of people right now, and what we're going to do about pay. Okay, so without further ado, Paul, I'm going to ask you to take the floor and explain your programme and plans to the meeting. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chair. I've been a UNISON member. My name's Paul Holmes. I've been a UNISON member for 40 years, a UNISON steward for 40 years. Been the branch secretary at one of the 10 biggest branches in Britain for 31 years. Been on the NEC 15 years. But they're not the crucial things. That's just the part of the experiences that I've had. And I've been in branches that cover a wide variety of the services in UNISON, not just local government, voluntary sector, police, probation, transport, etc. But I want to start this off really with a geographical point, because I've heard people in this union, senior officers in this union, talk about the lack of trade unionism in the three areas that we're covering tonight: the South East, the South West and London. And to me, it just shows an ignorance of the area. I don't know where they thought the London docks were. I don't know where they thought Bob cooperated on the railways. I have to use this one. I don't know where they think Tolford is. And, you know, I was very, very active in the miners' strike in 1984-5, and nobody stood prouder in that strike than the Kent miners. So we've a proud history of trade unionism in the south of this country, of England. It's just that sometimes people try and eradicate that. And we had numerous disputes in Kirklees over the last 6 years, all of which have been successful. We had a huge dispute in 2014 where the council said they wanted to reduce the number of business support officers from 750 to 500, that 100 had volunteered and 150 would have to be made compulsory redundant. I would say that 95% of that workforce were female, and 60 to 70% of it would be part-time. We immediately got 10 female stewards, and we had a 3-day strike. We picketed everywhere. They showed the enthusiasm, because what they did was exactly what any group of workers do. You go and see them, they've got a problem, they're faced with redundancies. Their initial problem is, bloody hell, how's this going to affect me? So what you have to say to them workers is, this is the plan that we've got. You join, is that plan any good? Have you got confidence in us carrying it out? And they'll tell you straight away. When you've got that relationship, that rapport then with a membership, you can win. And in 2017, we had a strike of 200 children's social workers over bullying, over temporary staff, over agency managers. We had a 2-day strike there and won that dispute. And then in 2018, we had a bin strike in Kirklees over bullying, harassment, workloads, and racial harassment. Won that dispute, won it hands down, had a week strike, 2 managers were removed, and it's been a new regime there. And that's about saying to the members, these disputes can be won. And what's going to be the music of the future in the next 12 months is going to be variations of this, either fire and rehire, which is what they're offering at, we're offering at the University of Sheffield, which you brought off, which they're going to offer in British Gas, which is basically giving people 3 months' notice, and unless you come back on the lower work terms and conditions, you get no redundancy pay, you get no pay and lower notice, you just disappear. Or they're going to start setting up arm's length companies where new workers can start, which they've offered on lower rates of pay, which they're now offering at the University of South Wales. And they're going to get the money back, the government. They want to get the money back that they've thrown about over coronavirus. The meal vouchers, the furloughing, the money that's gone to the private companies, the tracking and testing money, all that sort of money, they're going to want that back. And how they're going to get it back is, or they want to get it back, is out of the pay, terms and conditions and pensions of our members. And I sometimes get fed up in this union, hearing people talking about the union's assets and then talking about buildings or money or whatever. The assets of this union are the terms and conditions, the pay and the pensions of our members. That's all. And we throw every penny at them. That's what we have to do. And that's why I promised that there'll be a 50% of the resources of the union, money, time, expertise, buildings, whatever the branch wants. It isn't a question of saying, this is what you're going to have, this is what you're going to do. It's what do you want? 90% of the work's done in the branches, and at least 50% of the money should go there. And we're not just about collecting subscriptions. We're not a bank or a building society. You know, I have been involved, and I've used this example a couple of times in this. I had an argument with the Labour Council a few weeks ago, where the council had voted to put the cleaning out to a private company in the council. And I said, well, this is a disgrace, the Labour Council. And the councillor said, well, the problem was, Paul, we discussed it privately at the Labour group. And a UNISON full-time officer came to the Labour group and said, well, if you still recognise the union, you collect the subscriptions and you give us a convener, we won't oppose the privatisation of them cleaners. And that's not what we are about. We should be about the opposite of that. We should be saying to the private care homes and the private sector where we organise, we should be saying, look, we're picking 3 care homes or 3 private sector employees in every branch, and we're going to hit them. We're going to leaflet them. We're going to have meetings at a pub or a hall nearby or whatever method we need to have. We can give Zoom address out, whatever it is. And we're going to say to them, not that we want to recruit 3 members here who are just going to snow the branches under, that we want collective bargaining rights, that we've got members here, and that, so then that branches don't end up snowed under branch officers, don't end up going out to private care homes that's got no disciplinary procedure, no care, no grievance procedure, and then just they're going under. The branch secretaries are going under, and that's where we've got to aim the resources of this union to. And what we've got to change, if I had one slogan for this union, other than that I'm the members candidate, because I am a member and I am a lay member, it would be, we're going to turn it from a can't union into a can union. I'm fed up of people employed by this union telling us what we can't do. And when I speak to branch secretaries, they say, oh, we got to see a dispute, we put a plan forward, but if that plan involves any sort of publicity or particularly industrial action, then it's frowned upon. And we've got to say it's the opposite of that. We're there to promote and protect our members. And we've had general secretary elections now for 27 years. We've elected 5 general secretaries. They've all been full-time officials. Now, let's be clear who can stand to be the general secretary. All employees who are members with 5 years service, all members with 5-year service. So 0.0001% of the membership are employees, and 99.999% are ordinary members. Yet all 5 of the general secretaries have come from that 0.001%, and it's got to change. We have to have somebody in this as general secretary who knows what it's like at the job face, who knows about winning, who's going to fight on the front foot, because this union is the biggest union in Britain, but none of our members think it's the biggest union in Britain. And it's got to start acting its size, and it's got to start fighting its size. It can't be frightened to say things. It can't be, oh, we don't upset so-and-so, we don't upset so-and-so. We've got to say what our members want to say on their behalf. And in the 20 years of this union, from 2000 to 2020, we've never appeared on Question Time. Now, I questioned that, and Question Time said we've given invites out, but they've always been turned down. Now, that's an opportunity to speak to 4 million viewers about issues that are facing us, whether it's coronavirus, whether it's A-level results in schools, etc., etc. And times, they are changing. You know, if you would have asked somebody on the 1st of January, what would be the big issues in Britain this year? I think the majority of people would have said to you, it's going to be the Brexit. It's going to be how we negotiate the Brexit. Who would have said it's going to be coronavirus? Who would have said it's going to be A-level results? Who would have said it's going to be Black Lives Matter? Because things are changing, and as they change, this union's got to change. It's got to understand that there's too much in this country that's publicly funded, but not publicly controlled. 51% of local government now are spending goes to private companies, outsourced companies, arm's length companies. 51%, where there's no democratic control. And that's what people can't understand why things are closing and they can't vote for it. And in night, I got a member came in to see, a widow of one of our members came in to see us 2 years ago in the Huddersfield branch office and said to us, they brought me the Huddersfield Council yearbook for 1954. And it listed on every page what services the council provided. And at that time, Huddersfield Council in 1954, which was a Tory council then, was a health authority, it was a police authority, it was a fire authority, it was a water authority, it had housing, it had a power station, it sold electricity to it supplied electricity to its own homes and supplied them to other local authorities. And all that came under the democratic control and election of the local population. And people are completely frustrated now about what they're going to be able to do. And we can't control what we do if we don't elect the officials. That's why I'm not just calling for a general secretary and a worker's wage, which is 32,000. And the principle behind that is not that I want to make a sacrifice or be a saint. The principle is that's what I do the branch secretary's job on my wage of 32,000 as a legal officer with Kirklees Council. That's what hundreds of branch secretaries do their job on. And that what's good enough for the branch secretaries is good enough for the general secretary. And I think is also good enough for the elected assistant general secretaries and the regional secretaries. Everybody should be accountable to the union who wants to wield political power in the union. Those who are employed by the union, who provide support, because the union only consists of the branches and its members. There is nothing else. The bank accounts, the national office, the regional office, the welfare, the Croyd Bay, the legal is support for the branches and the members. But it's not about just support. It's about the same democracy I want in the council for services. I want for the branches to be able to decide what they want to do. And, you know, what do I want for our members? I read a quote the other day from Picasso in the 1950s. And it said to Picasso, do you want to lead a rich lifestyle? He says, I don't. He says, I don't want to lead a rich lifestyle. I want to lead a working class lifestyle with a lot of money. And that's what I want our members to do. I want them to lead a working class lifestyle with a lot of money. And I would start off, and I'll finish on this really, by going out and conducting collective bargaining in areas where we don't do the work properly, because we haven't got the resources to do the work properly in the branches in this time. And I would also make this promise here that I'm going to, and I've only thought of this one in the last week or so, that at conference every year, I want to come to a dozen people who are picked at random from the delegates and report back on how I've met my promises that I made as General Secretary. And they can mark me on that, and say, we think he failed, or we think he succeeded, or he made an effort, but that effort wasn't good enough. And that will be published to the membership. We're not having secret meetings. We're not having a situation where we nominate people for this or nominate people for that, and nobody knows how we did. I firmly believe in what Tony Benn said. If you've got some power, out on whose behalf do you exercise it? On how did you get that power? What power is it? Who elected to it, and how can we remove you? That's what democracy is all about. And I'm standing as a lay member candidate in this election, not based on promises, not based on some manifesto that I've dreamt up. That letter reflects everything I've campaigned for in all my time in the union. I've never been a paid official of this union. I don't want to be a paid official. I respect and admire loads of our paid officials who do good jobs in the circumstances that find them. But we've got to give them direction. We've got to come on the front foot and say, not just me, but the elected assistant regional secretaries, general secretaries, and the elected regional secretaries are there to represent you. We are the democracy of the union, and that's how the union's got to change. Otherwise, the members will become cynical. And I remember, I'll finish on this point. I remember I didn't understand this about 20 years ago. The Highway Stewards Committee in the council passed a motion and sent it to the branch committee saying, we want to pay Paul Holmes £20 a week. And I rang up the secretary of the committee. I said, why do you want to pay me £20 a week? Well, when they asked me, the stewards, what you got paid for doing the job, and I told them nothing, they said, he's obviously on the fiddle. He won't be doing it for nothing. Let's pay him £20. At least we know nobody would do it for £20. But you need to find out what he's fiddling. Well, the answer is, I'm like hundreds and hundreds of branch secretaries. I'm not fiddling anything. The honour of representing the members on my work, terms and conditions and pay is enough for me. We need to bring some passion and some leadership to this union. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Paul. That's brilliant. Spot on. We get a real sense of what you're about there and what we could do with UNISON, with different leadership and different inspiring leadership. We're going to have as much time as we can for questions, but your point you made about the music of the future and fire and rehire being a major challenge coming up. I do know John McLaughlin is in the meeting from Tower Hamlets branch where they're facing exactly that. If we've got time, we'll bring him in for a couple of minutes in the question session, because it would be great to hear from him. But I will start with that health question that came in, because we do want to get through as many as we can. This was from Hugh Williams, who's from Swindon branch. He wanted to know, what can we learn from the health workers fighting for a pay rise but not seeming to get much support from our union? And there's a second part to that question as well. The proposed £2,000 flat rate pay rise for NHS staff, is that a good idea or a bad idea? Would you be in favour of those flat rates, or would you rather see a percentage rise of 15%? What's your position on that, Paul? So those questions over to you, but Janet will no doubt want to chip in as well, however you want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I listened really closely to what Janet said, and I know loads of health workers in UNISON. There's 7 UNISON members live on my street. You know, it's just an ordinary street where ordinary people live and do the business. And 4 of them are health workers. And all 4 of them said to me, Paul, I've never known anything like the reaction to the public sector pay rise when the health workers didn't get it. These are people who were absolutely knackered from 6 months of working, absolutely frightened of the circumstances they were working in, and then just felt completely, when at the end of the tether, wanted a summer holiday that they couldn't take. We're given a slap in the face, and we're going to exploit you as well, we're not going to pay you. So I'm really, really clear there's a massive move there to pay. And if we don't tap into that, it's come from the grassroots. It's come from those members, of which I am one, who live on the terms and conditions of ordinary working people. And that's what we need to be talking about. Now, the claim, you know, I've done the arithmetic of the claim, because I think on top of band 1, I think that we're claiming 2,000, and some of the claim from the sort of shop floor is 15%. But in some respects, that's an irrelevant debate. Obviously, if you do the maths at the top of band 1, 15% would be worth more than 2,000. But the real issue is, what are they going to offer? You know, the claim is the claim, and you've got to go to the 2 questions that I told you earlier. What's the plan? Are we serious that you're going to achieve it? And there's 15 unions in there. So we're not talking about competitor unions, but they keep talking about the NEC. We're talking about brothers and sisters in other unions coming together, putting a claim in, but telling the members how we're going to achieve it. The mood's there. Is the union good enough to organise for that mood?
And yeah, sorry, Paul, if you finished, I just wanted to come in on the back of that and say the most exciting thing that's been happening, and to answer Hugh, you know, some of us who are experienced in the union and somebody like me who holds a position on the national body obviously wants to use my influence to try to persuade that leadership body to support what's going on. But the most important, exciting thing for me was actually being with the other health workers from my hospital. There were 50 people from my hospital who've never been on a demonstration. Now, UNISON needs to hear that from me, and they need to not lose the momentum and lose the potential of recruiting those people, because they're not all in unions at all. They don't get that. So I suppose I'd say that, frustrating as it is, in spite, not to wait for the leaders to tell us what to do, but to keep fighting them to endorse what we're doing, but go with it anyway, if that makes sense. So I'm really glad. You know, it was exciting. It was like organising for a party or something on the 8th of August. The text flying about, the WhatsApp groups, the sign-up sheets, the new involvement, and now the education is about, you know, just keeping people together. And like Paul said, you know, we can fight over 2,000 or 15%. I know people, a friend of mine got 34% in 88. I got 20%. I believe it's because we took strike action. So we're getting the troops ready to, you know, to do what's required to really win a pay rise, and therefore it's not lost. And the fact that UNISON have announced 2 days, that is called pressure from below, and it's what we've been doing. So we need to keep at it, and it's very inspiring to do that, because it lifts your spirits and it lifts people around you who haven't been involved yet to do more. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Janet and Paul. Another question quickly. This one's come from Charlie Hoare from the London Community and Voluntary Sector branch. He says, can Paul say something about Kirklees branch's work in organising in the community and voluntary sector, and something about what he thinks UNISON should be doing better in the community sector?
Well, I've touched on this in my introduction, that what we need to be talking about is, because what they call the community and voluntary sector is often financed via local government. So there's a huge employer in Kirklees, it might make a different ways, that deals with disabled children and schooling, and there's some residential properties there. But actually, when you dig deep, that employer has funding from 20, 30 different local authorities. And that employer is providing services that would have been provided by the council, or should have been provided by the council in the past. So when we went there to do a recruitment exercise, we started off from the basis of, this is obviously pre-COVID, we rented a pub next door and we leafleted and we put some food on, which is a normal type thing. But suddenly we started meeting people. The average age of employee in Kirklees Council is 52. And that is an incredible, when you think some of the manual jobs that are done there, the hard manual work that's done there by people of that age. But when we went into this employer, suddenly it was like going back into local government 35 years ago. People were walking about who were 21. People were going for a break and to a canteen. I can't remember anybody seen a proper canteen in local government. We've staffed there for years. So what you had to do was find 2 or 3 people inside there who are going to do it, because people like their own. That's what people like. They like people who are, they don't want to ring a branch office where the phone's engaged or you have to leave a message. They hate that. We all hate that. What they want is stewards. We went in there, we went into that employer, we immediately recruited. We said, we can't do it for you. What we can do is give you the support. And that's what we did. And we've got over 100 members there, and it's growing. But what we have to do as a union, and it comes up at every meeting, it comes up at every meeting. If somebody is going to be a steward in a private sector employer, particularly a private company, they're going to be a target straight away. So you've got to say to that person, I've got your back. We're doing collective negotiations, we want collective bargaining rights, we want pay negotiations, we want disciplinary procedure, we want grievance procedure. But I've got your back. What we always do at Kirklees is we have an induction. For every new steward has to come on an induction. And the first thing they've got to know is they're in the team. Not how you vote or how you don't vote or what political party you're in. You're in the team. When you're in the team, you're looked after. And once you start that, it becomes organic, and then you can move on to the next employer. You've got to do it in a planned method.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Paul. Take one more question from somebody, but then I'll try and bring John in if he's still on the line. John McLaughlin from Tower Hamlets. This is a question from Helen Davies of Barnet branch, and she says that too often regional council meetings are in Cora in her region. So she wants to know how Paul's going to help avoid that in future and radically improve participation in our union's democracy.
Right. Now, in Quora meetings help nobody other than those who like the status quo or like it being decided at a smaller meeting somewhere else. I am always come from the philosophy, the bigger the meeting, the better. You can always tell a good union official because they like big meetings. So if you want to get people involved in the meetings, if you want to get them meetings Quora, the first thing is don't let them become in Quora, because people only turn up to one in Quora meeting and they don't come again because they're wasted the time. You've got to work out when the meeting's going to be held. And some of the regions, you know, if you go up to Scotland, there are enormous distances involved. To go to a regional council from some of the islands would take 3 days there and back. So you've got to take account of the geographic of the area. Now, London has probably got the easiest geography of any of the regions, besides probably Northern Ireland, perhaps even got a better one than Northern Ireland. Smaller, good transport links, etc., etc. So you've got to provide a discussion that means something to the members, not just a vote because we want to get so-and-so elected, but we don't want to get so-and-so elected. That doesn't often bring people to meetings, and it certainly doesn't keep them coming to the meetings. What keeps them coming is campaigns. If we had a regional council meeting in normal times at the moment in London this Saturday, and the main issue on the agenda was the pay of our members in the health service, you would have a Quora meeting. If we'd have campaigned properly in local government for the local government pay and said we're serious about it and convinced the members we're serious about it and we're starting balloting next week, you would have had a Quora regional council. You've got to make the meetings relevant to the members. People keep talking about the turnouts in the ballots. You look at the turnouts in the ballots in like Kirklees Bins and in other places where people have been persuaded by the local branch that there's a serious issue that can be won and the branch want to win it. 90% turnouts every time. It's when the members think you're not serious. Well, why should I come to a meeting? Why should I waste my time coming to a meeting when you're not serious? If you're serious, they're serious.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paul. Quite agree with that. John McLaughlin from Tower Hamlets branch, are you, I can't see you, but if you're there, someone's going to put you on camera. Could you tell us a bit about how it's going in Tower Hamlets, please?
I could. Thank you, Dan. And firstly, I want to thank the many people on this call who I know have supported our dispute. Some of you I know have been on our picket lines. Many of you have sent messages of support and donations, and they really matter. Solidarity is the lifeblood of our union. We've taken 9 days strike action, Dan, and our employer, first our Labour Council, used sack and re-engage to impose detrimental contracts on us in the middle of the pandemic. And then they've used the Tory anti-union legislation to run out of the time that we are lawfully allowed to take strike action. So we're currently asking to reballot for further strike action. But what I wanted to say that we had the difficulty of striking during a pandemic, had no idea what it'd be like, and were stunned by the level of enthusiasm of our members. We thought, what will a picket line like? Actually, hundreds of people picketed. And what we found is what other people have talked about. There's a thirst in the country that says COVID has shown us who's essential. It's shown us what inequality does. And people are saying, coming out of it, we can't go back to austerity. We can't go back to the old normal. We need a social reckoning. And UNISON should be at the heart of a campaign and a fight for a social reckoning. And the reason that I'm supporting Paul is that Paul stands for 2 things to me. One, he stands for the rank and file. He knows what it's like and he knows how to organise. But secondly, it's action, not words. Because if you took all the UNISON policies, you can improve them. But I tell you what, if you implemented all our policies, Britain would be a much better country. trouble is we've got policies, but we haven't got a union that organises and fights and enables the rank and file to achieve those policies, to achieve the action we need to take. And Paul has got the record of doing exactly that, not just in his own branch, but in supporting branches all around the country. So I was really glad that I'm on the local government service group that we voted, and I'm really pleased at the number of branches. And I think the other thing about Paul's campaign is this, it's meetings like this, because Paul is not someone who says it's just about me as a General Secretary. He says, I am part of a wider movement to bring about change in this country, and that changes in our branches, up and down the country. And meetings like this, people coming together like this, I think, is the music of the future. It's got to be about a real fight. It's got to be about real action. And I think Paul Holmes is the person to lead UNISON to put it at the forefront of that movement. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much, John. Paul, can I ask you, we're actually starting to get towards 7:30, and I think we should try and aim to finish on time. People have been at work all day. But would you just respond to John's points and start to wrap us up?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, I'll speak for a couple of minutes, and that will be it then, Chair. You know, complete solidarity to Tower Hamlets, but it's also a fairly selfish solidarity as well, because where Tower Hamlets go, loads of people are going to be going afterwards. And so you always want to win the first dispute because it sets the mood for the dispute. And it's interesting, I really listen closely to what John says because I respect him as an organiser and as a branch secretary. But I remember when we went on strike in Kirklees a couple of years ago, the whole branch were out. And what people were worried about in the revenue and benefits section was we had 70 benefit officers who worked from home. And people tell, oh God, they're working at home, they work from home, they're only coming to work once a month, they're not going to be on strike, blah, blah, blah. By methods which you don't need to know about, we checked the computers and not one single person in them 70 clocked on that day. So the dispute can be won by a different method. And John's also right. The mood, you know what the mood in the country is at the moment? I'll tell you exactly what the mood in the country is. We want to get back to normal. We've had enough of this. It's gone on for too long. And that is the genuine desire of ordinary working people. They want to go on holiday. They want to work back, return to normal working at work. They want their family relationships to return to normal, the social life to return to normal. That's the general. What they're going to return to is not that unless we organise properly. I think that's the most important thing that's come out of this meeting. That as far as we're concerned, and our campaign, if anybody ever says to me, how do you think you're doing in your campaign, Paul? I will say, I have no idea about my campaign because I haven't got one. It's our campaign. It's a campaign that's meant to touch the nerves, the aspirations and the hopes of all our members. And when the campaign started, it's a bit like when Jeremy Corbyn, when people were pleased he got the ballot paper in 2016, and then they started thinking, oh, if he comes third instead of fourth, that'll be really good. Now, that first started here in this campaign. Now, that's changed now. Our nominations are above 35 now. We're going to be on the ballot paper. We've got a nomination from the service group executive that represents 2/3 of the membership of this union, 650,000. And we're in there now. And the momentum is with us. So I say to everybody listening to this meeting, if you're not in a union, join a union. If you're in another union, show solidarity with UNISON in your workplace as well. And if you're in UNISON, get involved in this campaign because this could be a game changer for this union. We could start becoming the union that we are the size of. We could become a heavyweight union. That's what we need to be.
Thank you, Paul. Right, so I'm just going to conclude the meeting with 3 final thoughts, everyone. You've heard a lot of fantastic stuff tonight, not least from Paul, but thanks so much to all of the other speakers who come on today. Do please get involved with this campaign. It's it's a people power campaign. This is not the establishment's campaign. Paul is the members' candidate. You can get involved with our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Critically, though, we want branch nominations right now. So take these messages back to your branch committees. We are going to email everybody after the meeting within the next 24 hours. So you'll get a list of things you can do to help, to get involved. And as John McDonnell said right at the beginning, word of mouth is really important. Pick up the phone, talk to your comrades, talk to your colleagues. Let's get some more nominations. Let's get a buzz going about this campaign. Second thing, we've actually got some contested local government service group exec seats coming up. I know everybody not on the call is not local government, but if you have got a vote in this, let's find out who your rank and file fighters are in those contested seats. The ballots are out on Monday. And then finally, I want to give a plug to one of our meetings. We've got a lot more meetings to come, a lot of good stuff to come, a lot of surprises to come as well. But on Friday, on the 11th of September at 6 o'clock, a little bit earlier than tonight, we've got a meeting with Paul Holmes, John McDonnell, Ken Loach, and Bernie Gallagher to discuss UNISON and its relationship with the Labour Party. So I hope you'll all want to attend that, and you'll no doubt be hearing from us about that if you've signed up to this meeting. So thanks again to everybody. Thanks to everybody who's come, and to all of our speakers. Good night, and we'll see you again. Take care.
Thank you.